Welcome, Carmel McCourt, Jim Parris.
Hi.
21 years ago, it all started with Carmel, and tonight, in a couple of hours' time, here at the London Cargo, you'll be fronting what's a 9-piece band. How did this setup come about?
Has it been 21 years?
21 years.
Yeah,
Jesus.
possibly.
Okay.
I'm afraid to report.
Yeah. We met at when I was an art student in Manchester, and Jim was doing psychology as a student, and Jerry, his cousin, came to Manchester. So we and you had a band going, B-Vamp, and I was kind of in an art school band, which was not about taking yourself seriously. It was about singing while they threw beer at you. So it was like Jim said, I think it was you said, take it a little bit more seriously, this singing, you know. So that's when we got together.
Was it the tail end of punk, you know?
That's where it went wrong, yeah.
That sounds very much like the tail end of punk.
Yeah, it's tail end of punk.
Yeah.
And the beer thrown at you was somehow.
It's part of the art school, you know.
Yeah, somehow you knew you were getting across to the audience if that happened. Yeah, 81, tail end of punk. Sort of great time for doing anything really, you know, just still the spirit of anarchy in the air about music. There was for me anyway.
And B-Vamp, what kind of band was that?
That was a kind of perhaps I don't know, perhaps a kind of poor version of Captain Beefheart or something like that. It was certainly a little bit avant-garde in its direction, yeah.
Velvet Undergroundish.
Velvet Underground,
yeah,
okay.
That's why
Velvet
I thought you
Underground,
would have bit
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
That's why I quite liked it.
Yeah.
And Carmel's first sort of indie album on Red Flame, that was described as soulful ballads, gospel, blues and stomping jazz. A lot of flavours there. Do you agree with that for a
I
start?
don't think it was stomping jazz at all. It was only 6 tracks and it was done very cheaply. And it was only bass, voice and drums, wasn't there, on it?
Yeah.
Because we didn't have any keyboards.
Yeah. Bass, voice and drums.
So we didn't have any technology, so it was only what we had. So it was quite limited. We weren't against technology, we just didn't have any money to get any, or don't think we had any. No one could play a keyboard. That was the other thing. Bit of a problem.
But that album attracted the attention of London Records eventually, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
It was out there in the indie charts. It got across, and it was obviously very different, being only bass, drums, and voice. And had a lot of space in it, and Carmel's voice could therefore, you know, really be shot, you know, be exposed. And London Records heard it, wanted to just go do something. I don't know if they, in a way, they were just like us. They were, you know, fascinated about just how far you could perhaps go with writing more off grooves than other people were doing. But that was the beginning. That record, that was the beginning.
And as I mentioned, that was
recorded in Rochdale, by the way.
Right.
Okay, you just got to know that.
And that was 21 years ago, and then you were a trio basically with Jerry Darby.
That's right.
And tonight, in a couple of hours' time, there's this 9-piece band. Now then, tell me how that development came.
Well, yeah, we did 19 years, Jerry, Jim and me, augmenting up into big bands, you know, percussionists and horns and singers, and then going back down to working quartets and whatever. And tonight, Sophie Ward is playing drums. She's a Londoner, but she's living in Manchester, so we're very lucky that she's up there, actually. And Jerry came to see her play and see us play the other day, and he got a bit sort of drunk, and he was I'd say off his head, but he enjoyed it. He was just
it was a
loved
good gig. It was
her
a good
drumming,
gig.
and yeah, he really loved the horns tonight. I think they're very good. The horns tonight as well.
I mean, just like before, it's the big band was there to support those records we were doing. I mean, we were even on tour with four horns for a long time, and as someone, even two percussionists, you know, he got bigger and bigger. So when we were asked to record the concert live for DVD, but with this older material, so we had no choice but to search out, you know, another big band again. And we're really happy with the players we found. Yeah.
And going way back again, Carmel, you were awarded Jazz Singer of an Italian Jazz Festival. Is jazz vocalist a label you're happy with?
Oh, I was just happy to get the award. It was lovely, yeah. Yeah, I was dead happy. And
gotta win.
You know, the Italians are really into singers, so it doesn't really matter if they call you jazz or a musician or whatever. I think like Spain, they're really into what you do with your voice. And, I don't know, they kind of applaud mid-note, those kind of audiences. They're really...
Yeah, they're very focused on
they're really
vocals.
Serious, aren't they? And then
Singing.
Someone will get up and sing, you know, if they feel moved enough. I remember in Italy, someone just get up and singing back, and I was going, oh, what's happening? But they're really, Italy's a great place to work.
Did you listen to jazz singers like Ottilie Patterson and, you know, going back to the 50s and that kind of British jazz? Are any influences there, or you said you were very much soul influenced?
Yeah, I'd say I listened to the records that my elders would have in the family. It's a large family. So it'd be, in those days they'd be lucky to get hold of Percy Sledge and that kind of the early soul singers. And so that was, you know, the moving voices and the Irish ballads by people. And so I think, you know, I first came into listening to jazz, it was actually not to singers, it was to drummers. And I really like Elvin Jones, who's my all-time favourite. I go and see him play. And I'm so much more into drummers than singers, actually. But, you know, Billie Holiday, what a great, when she does her live performances that you can see on camera. You know, you can't enjoy everything, but I enjoy some great moments of hers. And if I had to learn a jazz song, or try and find one to, you know, to get the lyrics, you have to listen to Frank Sinatra, because he's the only one actually you can hear all the lyrics of. Yeah. And also, if you can't sing like him either, so you'll never copy him. He's unique and beautiful, a great groover, you know. So and horn players really, Louis Armstrong. So where they put the horn and stop. And Ella Fitzgerald. I was crazy about Ella Fitzgerald for a long while. Just about as much as I'd be crazy about finding, say, Mahalia Jackson, the great gospel singer. So the greatness of these. And at the same time, I'd be probably secretly into Maria Callas, because then there's greatness in that. So
the church figured for those people. Did it figure for you? You say you were Catholic. Did church services move you in singing?
Our actual church was pretty dead, I have to say. But it was the choir at school with this man Adrian Hopkins that kind of, and I was lucky enough to get to a high school which wasn't Catholic, so that was brilliant. And I could get away from the nuns but when I was, this guy did choir, so I got into harmony. He's a brilliant man. But when I was a kid, the nuns, if you go in, I started at 4 or 3.5, they just put you on tables to sing. Because, I don't know, I was always singing. And I always did this dance where you stand and do this at the same time as you're doing a Beatles song. I just remember being quite fat, but being put on these tables to sing they must have been laughing at me, you know.
Yeah. But you enjoyed the attention.
I just thought it was, you know, God had struck, you know. They were nuns.
Yeah, he should be around, shouldn't he, really?
Jim, what was your route into jazz? You say Captain Beefheart, Beefheart was Captain Beefheart, but what was your route into jazz?
Route into jazz? Certainly from a child listening to sort of the funky end of jazz, Jimmy Smith and Nat King Cole, and you know, that kind of. But later on, an African connection, Fela Kuti, very, very jazz, well, very African, but and interestingly, when I first met Carmel, she encouraged me to, because at the time I was playing electric bass, and encouraged me to get into double bass, and I was already sort of doing pub jazz around in the Manchester area, pub jazz, playing jazz in pubs. And we had this chap, Mike Farmer, because quite often in music you'll have somebody they're never going to be famous, but they're like, they're like the real schools for players. I think they do all the small gigs and they encourage young players to pass through and learn the craft a bit. And Mike Farmer in Manchester was one of those.
He's quite famous amongst young jazz musicians.
A tenor player in Manchester.
There's always been a very healthy jazz scene in Manchester, still is today.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, it's reasonably strong jazz scene.
It doesn't go away.
And still going away, yeah.
And that mid-80s, sometimes people mention you in the same breath as Sade and later on Courtney Pine, that mid-80s sort of cool jazz boom.
Well, I wouldn't understand the first, but I mean, Courtney Pine, we did a track with on a programme. So I think we did Thelonious Monk and changed it a bit. But he just started out there as well. So
because jazz did sort of get quite popular in the mid-80s, more sort of mainstream. Any ideas why? Cool jazz.
It was just coming through, because it's funny you said how the end of punk and interestingly, I first met Courtney. He was playing with a reggae band called Clint Eastwood and General Saint, and it was the Slits. It was their last gig. I think it was the Hammersmith Palais or something, and both Carmel and Jerry were supporting, and this reggae band Clint Eastwood with Courtney were supporting. I remember meeting Courtney backstage, and he was saying how he's going to pursue jazz, really pursue it that direction more, and discussing it with him. So that real, people were coming. It was just, rolling into that. There was just an interest. Yeah.
Natural and organic.
Yeah. There was Rip Rig and Panic. There were enough young people wanting to investigate that stuff at the time.
That was the London scene, really, as well.
Yeah.
Manchester had another thing going, which there was. They're more into bebop.
Yeah.
Tenor Madness and all those tunes that you all did. You were doing more sort of classic bebop.
Yeah, I was doing more of the old school. Yeah, old school.
And another huge legend within rock that you were working with The Falling was Brian Eno. How did that connection come about?
It's just I don't know how it came about. It was just fantastic to work with him. And it still is in your head, because he teaches you when we work with him how to move on and how to be independent and how to produce yourselves and how to upset a mix, turn it upside down, and don't trust the engineer, and loads of. He's just such a great man. How to take 3 tracks and slam them together, and maybe that will work. He's totally an artist. The way he works, he's really very fine artist. We were very lucky to work with him in music, but I think you'd be lucky to work with him if you're a painter. Just lucky to know him as a friend. He's
whatever.
Yeah,
he taught you to question everything. Yeah.
Totally. He's very cheeky. Yeah. Yeah, he is, isn't he?
I think it happened. It was simply. A manager we had at the time, a chap called Paul Ablett, and he had the idea, and he sent Brian a tape, or maybe it's more than that. Maybe he contacted Brian's manager and so on. But as soon as we met him, we could see why. The guy understood what we were trying to do, and he certainly had a few very creative proposals for us to try out, and it was a great time.
And you were with London Records in total for 7 years, 5 albums in 7 years. 7 years is quite a long time sometimes, but can I ask you, why did the split come? Were you unhappy about it?
I think we were begging to go. We were begging to go the last 2 years, because it had
begging to go from Asia.
Yeah, really, please let us go. So we moved to Warner Bros. East
It's
West.
another Brian Eno influence. So
I just think it's my own boredom, because it's like the endless fights of trying to get over what you want to do at a time when they're actually busy doing something else.
Yeah.
That's selling at the time, and we were quite unique in our approach to making and writing albums, and it was quite difficult towards the end to get them made. There's a lot of hassle to get over them. The first hurdle is them. So, but they were tremendous to us in that respect. I think it was 5 years was great, and then the last 2 was really pretty obvious that we should all split up, really. But it was Roger Ames who signed us, who's probably running the world now. But he was, he wanted a singer on his label. In fact, I think he was supposed to sign up Sade, and he said, no, we've got our singer on the label, which was a really bad mistake. She sold millions. I thought that was really funny.
As a final question, high points and low points in your career. Can you mention one high point, one low point each? What would be the high point? Immediately springs to mind.
Working in France the first time, and people would be sort of shouting and screaming. You didn't know who they're doing that for, and it was actually for us. Do they like us here? It's great, because there was a sense of relief also going there to
And
work.
the mega pop star Johnny Halliday liked you as well.
Yeah, he was very much into us, and did the obligatory duet. And it's but no, he's great. He's a wild boy, really.
Jim, high point?
High points. It was definitely great. You said the French thing, when we
The French Connection.
French Connection, and there was a point I remember we did 4 nights at the Olympia in Paris, and that felt kind of special, because that felt like hey, how many people are going to get to do that in their lifetime, and
low points.
Low points.
Very brief.
I think this when Jerry Darby is great, but when some money came in, because we've all been broke all our life, and we were all given at one time a lump sum of £15,000, and I remember thinking, that's easy, we'll get that again. But Jerry was always someone who said, you get that once in your life, it won't happen again. Yeah. So he spent his wisely, and got a house or something. I think low points is when you're not working anymore, or you're bringing up your son. I'm bringing up my son, and you realise you haven't got any money. And you go, oh, what did they do with it? Where did it go? So I think that's the low point, is just being broke. After all your work, but it's not a problem, because I can do any work. It doesn't bother me, but I think that was stupid.
We kind of
We didn't sell to adverts as well, because we were like, we don't sell to adverts. But we do now. Yeah.
Jim?
We kind of we did stop work. We did kind of officially, we did kind of have an agreement. We stopped working together for about 2 years, until about a year ago, say. And just prior to that, just prior to stopping work together, we had a short tour. And I remember the last gig we did, and as far as we were concerned, it would be the last gig we were ever going to do together. And it went terribly, and I had a terrible time. And I thought, oh no, it can't end like this. It's like, that kind of felt, I wasn't happy about that. And I thought, I'm always going to remember that our last gig, I had personally had a terrible gig. Like, lots of technical problems, and I think for about 5 numbers, no one could hear me, and out front. And
yes,
so,
but you played beautifully. So
I played beautifully. So. But that's felt low. But anyway.
Carmel McCourt, Jim Parris, have a great gig tonight. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Enjoy.
Thank you. Talk. Wow. Well, talk is it's got a. People tell me it's got an African 6/8 kind of musical structure. It's a nice groove. I'm certainly always been interested with my double bass, investigating a kind of African feeling, and it's a great groove with the congas, and it's also a great way of opening up the gig, because there's lots of solos, So it's certainly one of our best, more instrumentally pieces that we've ever created.
And from the album The Falling, where you had African percussionists involved there, and that's right, yeah?
Yeah.
We were interested in African percussion before we made any album. We all went to African drum class, and so we were looking to work with Isaac Kofi and Johnny Folarin, who are pretty much masters at congas. They're from Ghana and Nigeria, those two. So we were really lucky as young kids to be working with the likes of them, I think. So we tried to kind of keep that involved in the writing of tracks, congas.
Sally.
Now Sally, again, it started being written very much around congas and bass. And then at the time, it's a long time ago now, but with London Records, we were asked to work with a producer called Hugh Jones, and he kind of bit by bit kind of got you could say a fusion, because he got the kind of the rockiness out of it. We were bringing very much our interest in kind of African, more swingy type grooves. So it ended up, and then with the brass as well, so it ended up being like it is a strange fusion of African, jazz, rock, R&B, and very important track for us, because obviously not in Britain it's known, but in France they're still playing it in service stations, but they're still playing it, and it was definitely an important track for us in our career.
I think it's just nice when you have a bit of a jam session and a bit of poetry goes with it. So it's kind of, I think, a happy coincidence that it's actually a song about someone dying. So it's the idea of it being a happy occasion, and that it's not a tragedy in some cases. So it's
a groovy song about death.
Positive song about it.
Yeah, positive, about passing over.
Yeah, swing. Yeah.
And it got to number 5 in the French charts.
Yeah, it did actually. You know, it was great that.
Yeah.
It was great for us because in England you had something else happening. So it was great for us to go to France and work in the Thatcher years in England. It was fantastic for us politically as well, I think, to be over there working. So they allowed us to be, if you like, as artists.
Ain't it sad?
Ain't it sad? Well, the groove is the piano part's essentially by Dollar Brand, Abdullah Ibrahim, as he's known now. And I'm a long-time fan of his. I think you are. And I think at my funeral, there's a track by him called "The Wedding," which is a very slow horn track, no vocals, and he's just a great writer. So it's taking one of his up-tempo grooves, and putting lyrics on it. And sometimes they are improvised; they do change. But we saw him play in Manchester recently, and he was awesome. He's still awesome. He's quite, mature now, and he has years on him. But nonetheless, very beautiful. A great man.
Beautiful man or beautiful?
Very sexy man. Yeah. Surprisingly.
Yeah, and great, writes good tunes
He's
too.
all right at music too.
Bring back Elvis. Sorry.
Azure, Duke Ellington.
Azure, yeah, that's a cover, completely a cover version, written by long time ago, written by Duke Ellington. I think it goes back to something like 1933. Once again, we got our tasting grooves going with it, but it's fascinating how you go back to tunes by masters, people like Duke Ellington, and it's fascinating. You can always reinvent them. You can always reinvent them. But it's that thing of a passion. If you have a passion for something, I guess you have the inspiration. That's the issue. But anyway, definitely a Duke Ellington fan.
Tracks My Tears.
Tracks My Tears. It's a Smokey Robinson song, but in the 80s, starting to work with Jim and Jerry, I'm very much from soul music background, and I wanted to do something that would be change the group. So I think it was kind of, perhaps people do that more easily today, but it was quite hard to get that idea accepted. It is Smoker Roberts' song, improvised bits on a bass groove that we just made up in a flat in Moss Side when we were all in Moss Side. And we did that quite a bit before it was ever, I think it's been recorded once or twice, but it's very changeable. So tonight, hopefully, it will be a very scintillating fifth number in the set.
Hard Rain.
Hard Rain by Bob Dylan. In the last couple of years, I was working with some Italian musicians in Torino, and I was going out there to write songs for them and to perform, and we did this. And I went one time with the idea that we'd do Bob Dylan's song, because it was an idea by an Italian man. It just came to me after a gig, we should do Bob Dylan. So I don't ignore people when they come. I just think that, well, why did that person say it? So I tried Hard Rain, but on David Gray's groove. David Gray's from White Ladder, the album, the first track. I forget the name of it, but it's that groove that I've borrowed. We haven't told him this yet, David.
No.
But I just thought that the two would marry well together. And I think it sort of does.
Did you like Brian Ferry's version of it?
I did when I was a kid. I did. I thought it was typically, you know, it had a sort of odd sound with the vocal. It's not passionate, but it's very artistic. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his anyway.
Hard Rain. Yeah, it's well, he's a great writer. So, you know, there's so much material to choose from. So, once again, it's that issue of, like I said before, when it turns you on, if the tune turns you on in a sense, and then there's going to be inspiration, and importantly live, you can really get your teeth into it. And Carmel's, you know, just certain that particular track
I think it's great. I think it's quite prophetic in a way, and the pellets of poison that flooded the waters of the millions of people that live out in, say, Africa or something. I think it's very prophetic considering when it was written, and very hard to memorise because it doesn't all rhyme, and there's different lengths verses. So I memorised this walking the dog, picking up my son from school. So it's actually quite a. He's a meaty person to get into if you're a singer because of all the lyrics. So yeah, it's great.
The Falling.
Falling is again really a bit of poetry about a lad, really about someone who had died, but there was a lad in Scunthorpe who did fall to his death, but I was in Manchester at the time, and also you had the guy from Joy Division, as it was then, dying as well to suicide. So it was a bit of an idea of those combined, and we've tagged a little bit of Bob Dylan on the end to try and get the Twin Towers or something about these towers in from a track of Bob Dylan's. So nice and stark. I like that beauty. It's nice and stark.
And the title track of the album.
It was, yeah, of course, yeah. The album The Falling.
Yeah, The Falling. It's a poem. It's a poem, and it keeps. It has a kind of panoramic quality to it. It's a interesting thing about The Falling is I remember when we first wrote it, and I was jamming away at the bass line, and this has happened a few times over the years, but it's that thing of not knowing, you know, perhaps what you're doing at the time, and it's something else. And Carmel and Jerry at the time saying, "Oh, you've got to do that bass line. You've got to do that bass line." And I was saying, "But what did I do? I didn't. You know, it was nothing. You know." And I'm doing the same nothing. You know, it's still, you know, and it's one of my favourites.
That's crap.
Yeah, I wasn't so polite about it. I said, "I can't. It's crap."
Jazz
you know.
crap.
Yeah, jazz crap. That was it.
No, we liked it, but Jerry and me, we were very kindred spirit as songwriters. Although he doesn't work with us now because he's into teaching, but he was wonderful to work with because I think it was more fun writing the songs than ever performing them, in a sense, you know, in whatever dungeons you needed to do it in the early days.
The early days.
Yeah, but I always noticed that with Jerry because he kept saying as a drummer, "I can't write songs. How do you do it, Carmel?" I said, "It's easy, Jerry. you know, just so we you know, we kind of, he learnt a bit from my madness, and we kind of felt the same things when we were writing. We knew what was good or what was bad.
So you miss him?
Yeah, of course. He's just a barrel of laughs.
We still see each other
love
all the
Jerry.
time.
Yeah.
Rue Saint-Denis.
Rue Saint-Denis, little trip to Paris with Jim, Jerry and me on a bus.
Yeah, Rue Saint-Denis,
It's a road we walked down.
a road we walked down in Paris,
Yeah, the
and
red light district.
yeah, it was kind of fun writing that, but kind of experimental. It's almost all percussion as a track.
But we
So-
didn't. We met a bloke in a pub, a Frenchman, when we got back to Manchester, and we gave him some beer. Said, "This is what we want to do, the street scene, and it's got to be about, you know, prostitution and male prostitution. Can you help us?" And so we gave him a couple of beers, and he was just, you know, scribbling it down on a piece of paper. But I didn't realise for years I was singing "Tu viens, chérie." He's like, "Are you coming?" Are you coming? I didn't know that.
It's
I
also a
think
great
that's
way.
really good.
The naughty lad.
It's always a great way to write a song. You buy somebody drinks in a pub and say, you know, what did you say? Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's the secret of it. Is
Yeah.
The lessons in songwriting, in a sense, it's like it's totally open-ended how you do it, who you do it with. That's got to be said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's just a bloke in a pub.
Yeah,
He was
an
French
Irish
though. He
pub.
was French. An Irish pub, French
Irish
guy.
pub, yeah.
So you know, mixing it up. Very international.
Magic.
Very international.
Magic.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of you.
I'm not afraid of you. Last time I sing
I'm
it
not afraid of
tonight,
you, yeah.
I'll sing it after tonight.
That was written for a film, and we sent it off. And the film was about an Irish detective who has one leg, a wooden leg. So you hear it's kind of Hitchcock, I guess. You hear him coming, clock, 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 or maybe it's more like Peter Pan, but he's got one leg. So the director said he wanted this track, and we think, oh, it's a bit kind of spooky, you know.
A wooden-legged psychopath, wasn't it?
Well, yeah.
He was a psychopath.
Yeah, a whodunit. So we, something with mystery and tension.
Yeah, we wrote that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sent it. No, but
Yeah.
you sent it off to the director, and he said, no, I it's not quite what I want, you know. So
He wanted, I'm looking for love, I'm looking for
Yeah, it
He
was
wanted
very-
that. He wanted a lovely little disco song.
but I don't know. I think it's one of the best things we've ever written, and so.
I don't actually agree with that, but
Oh.
I think it's got a German quality to it. There's this but for me, actually, it hasn't got enough groove like certain other pieces, but it's got its drama, if you like.
Drama.
Good news.
Bad up. That's what can you say about good news? It's very topical. Good news. It was topical 10 years ago. Carmel wrote some. There was a theme we kind of edged on a lot of the time. Is Islam, Christianity. You know,
The rich versus the poor.
rich, the poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a Bible called Good News, isn't there? So there is.
Yeah, it's full of.
There is, but it's very much a dig at all that. It's not in any way doffing my spiritual cap at any of them. Although I'm practicing Catholic, in fact I've stopped going recently because I've had enough of those as well. And I've even chanted a couple of Buddhist things recently. So I'm one of those Buddhist Irish Catholics, and I'm quite appalled at nearly all of what goes on in religion. So the Catholics, Muslims, I'm pretty much appalled by all of them. I think they still manage in this day and age to put women so far down. They have no political rights. And I think it's almost inbred now, say the Irish Catholic women, it's almost inbred, you know, they're so fearful to leave bad partnerships. With Muslim women, they just can't leave. You know, so I'm not into any of them. But I am into songwriters, and so I'm suggesting maybe that Van Morrison at the end might have more God in him than any of these priests, or Jim Morrison from the Doors, or a bit of Edith Piaf, where I've changed the melody. There's quotes from various people. So it's just like it's really a kind of a bit of our style of spiritual gospel.
More.
Pete Saunders is the keyboard player on More, More, More. He wrote it with us in very early stages. He's from London and he's done lots of various little bits and pieces on different albums. So he was into Aretha Franklin and into those kind of grooves. So he had that groove going, and I had what I was doing going against him. And then Jerry Darby, the drummer, had the insane idea of working with Sounds 18, this thing he'd heard on local radio, which are a big band from Accrington, Bolton. So we met up with them. So it was a kind of a long spiel, this track, and then it became this other thing, which is kind of like a poppy, up-tempo-y thing, which is just more, and more. And I heard it in a club, actually probably over a year ago, and it's quite a bizarre track, and it doesn't really age because it is so itself.
20 years old now.
It is,
20 years old, yeah.
Mike Thorne produced that, and Mike Thorne's someone we worked with on the first album. Yes, some of the first album.
Some of the first albums.
Not the second one, but then the third one, Everyone's Got a Little Soul. He did the whole thing. He just got really excited. And just met him recently in London, so he's sort of one of our mentors in a way, isn't he? We argued a lot with him, as we should do with producers, but but he's been great to us.
Bad Day.
Bad Day. Mike Thorne again produced.
Yeah. Gospel-y.
It was when we were doing indie stuff. It was something like bad day. It was like sort of ridiculous stuff, but it was with the double bass, always doing that groove. So that was a long time as a little sort of improvised track, and then it got squared up into being a song with ahoos in it.
Yeah.
An ending.
Yeah, it's interesting when that happens. You've actually, it's quite nice to really, really loosely write something and then perhaps work with a creative producer type. Sometimes there's a temptation to give a finished piece, as a demo or whatever, and then you may as well carry on and record it yourself, produce it yourself. I think in many ways. So I think that's the kind of irony, because often I guess if you're a band starting out or something, or if anyone gets record deals these days anyway, but you're often thinking to have finished pieces and then succeed in that way. But then once you get the record deal, that's how it used to be anyway. It's often more productive if your writing or you're collaborating with a producer. You're co-writing with a producer effectively, from a very almost there at the piano first day, or they're jamming and singing. So it's a strange. How to make records. It's a strange process.
Very modestly, you haven't mentioned it was a hit. Were you surprised it was a hit?
No, actually no, because we were signed to London Records, and it's kind of like that's what they were going to do with that song. So we knew that would happen with that song. It was a bit embarrassing going back to Scunthorpe Market, and your mum, who was always called you Carmel, was suddenly going, Carmel, across the market stall, going, no, because it's just stupid. But you did the Top of the Pops. But that was something we vowed never to do, didn't we? We started as indie artists, so we don't do that. But we did that. And
I remember even now people say, "Oh, that was so different at the time. That track, that was so different." And again,
yes, it is different.
It is different,
yeah.
But for us,
But it's basically blues, isn't it? I mean, it's the sort of thing. When my family at home, some friends used to come and see my brother. They tried to be in a band, like as teenage lads do. And they'd say, "Oh, we'll do a blues, yeah, man." And they'd all with their long hair and they'd go. It always starts off with a blues. Always starts off with you wake up in the morning, it's only midday, and you go to bed in the evening. So that's, I suppose I ripped off that cheesy idea at the beginning, but no, I think it's quite sort of quite a good little song, really.
All in the Game.
All in the Game. Always been crazy about that track ever since I heard the Four Tops do it. With that Motown sound. It's still one of my favourite. Their version. Still one of my favourite records?
Yeah, but we had to change a bit of it because I got told off for this. We changed the middle bit because it was a bit boring, and I think that got us into a bit of trouble with certain people who didn't think you should do that with songs, which obviously you can. They're not sacred, are they? So.
Well,
So,
yeah. That's curious because you're right. You can change it, and now everybody changes all the songs. You know,
Yeah.
and not only change it, they literally just sample it.
Just use a bit of it. Yeah.
That kind of Lego type of thing, which is it's very creative. I'm not.
You are putting it down.
Oh yeah, I'm putting it down.
Because
but the point is,
very
there was a time, and that was just a little change we made, even to All in the Game. And when we did it, there was, you can't, if you do a cover version, it has to be precisely like the original. And if
Who says?
Yeah, so it's curious how people's expectations of things can change.
Not dark yet.
Not dark yet. Bob Dylan's one of his latest songs, so it's obviously not going to have an American feel because I'm not American, but it's got a slightly, let's say, Irish feel on it, and I think it's a great piece by Bob Dylan.
It's quite recent, isn't it?
It is quite recent. It's probably in the last 4 or 5 years. But it's got actually another verse missing. It's quite a long piece, so I had to cut out a verse, and I didn't want to because I think it's really good. But yeah, I think that's a beautiful one with respect to Bob Dylan.